Hello, my name is Gina Winchester, and I'm a clinical cognitive neuroscientist, a writer, an educator, and a content creator. This series is called Science in a Sec, where we will discuss a broad range of scientific and clinical content. Check us out on social media, Substack, YouTube, and Spotify. This series is brought to you by swallowsafe.com. At swallowsafe.com/education, we have ASHA-approved CEU courses that cover a wide range of topics. These courses are available to anyone, but also provide clinicians with the continuing education credits they need for re-licensure. We get questions about some of the terms and topics in those courses, so at Science in a Sec, we're here to give you a little more information. Today's question is, what is a neuron? The nervous system is fascinating, but it can feel overwhelming to study. Look, I totally get it. You're trying to wrap your head around the single most complex thing in the entire universe. When people tell me how hard it is, I always joke, you're right. It's not rocket science. That would be so much easier. Think about it. Rockets only deal with physical objects and forces, but in fields like neuroscience and psychology, we have to grapple with things like consciousness and cognition, stuff we experience every day but still can't truly define. That is what is so great about Science in a Sec. Let's start at the very beginning with the neuron. Think of it as the building block. And we have to start here because if the foundation isn't solid, trying to understand something as complex as the brain, it's just too hard. Many teaching methods make the mistake of jumping right to the brain. They gloss over the neuron basics and then wonder why people are confused. When you're taught that way, you spend the whole time feeling lost and frustrated, and by the end, instead of a breakthrough light bulb moment, you're just tired and ready to quit. Books about the nervous system always begin small and then get bigger. This is because the fundamental rules that govern a single neuron, which is a brain cell, are the same ones that apply at every single level, all the way up to the complexity of the entire nervous system of a person. It makes the most sense to start with the basics and then expand our understanding. Beginning with a single neuron, what are the concepts we are trying to understand here? Number one, a neuron is a microscopic cell. Just like any other cell in the body, it's so small, it is hard to conceptualize how small it is. Number two, neurons have biology, chemistry, and physics happening. Neurons do not think. There is no thought there, and this is a really important point. There is no thought in a neuron. It functions or it doesn't function. Number three, thought, consciousness, cognition, psychology, and neurology are all very different things. Thoughts, consciousness, cognition, and psychology are beyond physical existence, but neurology is biological, chemical, and physical. And that's a good start. It's really cool. The neuron, a grand communicator. Imagine the neuron is a tiny, highly specialized performer in this grand biological theater. It has a single vital purpose: to transmit signals. Every part of its being, its entire structure, is designed to do only that one essential job, and it does it with incredible dedication. While the actions of a neuron's performance are incredibly complex, the physical structure itself is actually quite straightforward to grasp. So for now, we'll simply focus on how this remarkable cell is built. We'll leave the deeper discussions of the biology, the electrical changes, and the physics, the intricate dance of electrochemistry, for a future conversation. Understanding the whole process is fascinating, but for now, let's just appreciate the simple elegance of a neuron structure. Okay, what is the simplest explanation of the neuron structure? Because this article is already kind of long. the one-way street of neuron electricity. Another way to think of a neuron is as a tiny, highly specialized biological wire. It uses a blend of amazing biology, chemistry, and physics to create and pass along an electrical signal. But here's the coolest part. This tiny electrical current has a built-in rule. It can only flow in one direction. In fact, the entire physical structure of a neuron is perfectly designed to enforce this rule. Its sole mission is to grab an electrical message, send it forward along its length, and then hand it off to the next neuron in line. These neurons aren't solitary. They're strung together like beads on a necklace, forming different pathways. The electrical activity strictly follows a one-way path down this whole chain, and these pathways can be surprisingly short, just a few millimeters, or they can be incredibly long, like from the top of your head to your big toe. For instance, a single neuron connecting your spinal cord all the way down to your big toe runs nearly the length of your entire body. The movement of this electrical signal is a bit like a car that can only drive forward. You can steer, you can accelerate, but you absolutely cannot shift in reverse. The signal moves straight through the neuron, passing to the next one, and it keeps going. If it ever needed to get back to the starting point, it would have to loop the whole network of other neurons to circle back. This strict one-way organization is what keeps your brain and nervous systems incredibly context signaling neat, efficient, and well-ordered. Okay. But how does this all relate to the structure? The movement of that electricity occurs in one direction only because of this structure, and that is the basis of all neurological function. If you can understand this, then all of neurology makes a lot more sense. Like I said, it's better to start with the small and then work your way up to the big. So let's go into a little more detail about what this structure is and honestly, why we care. Neurons have these things called dendrites, cell bodies, axons, and terminal endings. Dendrites are where the chemicals come in and they stimulate a neuron. The neuron's cell body processes these chemicals and it trips the neuron's axon to create the electrical signal. The signal is then carried to the terminal endings where more chemistry falls into the space between the two neurons. The next neuron's dendrites pick up those chemicals from this space and the process starts again. This is what we mean when we say it flows in one direction. The first neuron's dendrites are going to pick up some chemicals. It's going to stimulate the cell body, which will stimulate the axon to create an electrical signal. That electrical signal then is going to go down to the terminal endings. It's going to cause it to release chemicals into the space between the new neurons, and the next neuron is going to repeat the process again in the pathway. Honestly, the body is really cool. Here are a couple more details about the structure of the neural pathway. Number one, the space between those two neurons is called a synapse. And number two, the chemicals from the first neuron in the pathway are called neurotransmitters, which now makes sense as a name, and they're released into the synapse where they will be taken up by the next neuron's dendrites, continuing the process of transmitting these signals in a neural pathway. And that's kind of it. Stepping into the synapse. Let's dive into the space between neurons, which you know by now is the synapse. This is a critical little gap where all the action happens, specifically where you find those incredible little messengers called neurotransmitters. These chemical messengers are what makes your brain work in countless different ways. When a neurotransmitter from one neuron reaches the next, it essentially tells that receiving neuron what to do. The type of neurotransmitter determines the type of function, or quote unquote, the message that the second neuron will carry out. take a look at the figure below, which comes from Winchester and Winchester 2014. On the left side, you'll see the terminal endings of the first neuron, which is the sender. On the right, you'll see the dendrites of the second neuron, which is the receiver. I encourage you to take a moment to really examine this diagram. It's a great visual guide for how the neurons connect. Once you've had a look, be sure to check out our next article, Science in a Sec, What is a Neurotransmitter? And we're going to give you much more detailed breakdowns of everything that is happening in this figure. If you end up diving deeper into our article, Science in a Sec, What are Neurotransmitters? We will explore the synapse by using the memorable analogy of a lock and key. This simple comparison can really help you visualize how dynamic these tiny little chemical messengers are. And that's where we're going to stop for today. I've given you an overview of the absolutely essential concepts that you need if you want to know anything about neurology. If you are a clinician, on swallowsafe.com/education, we have ASHA-approved CEU courses on the neurological system of dysphagia that you may enjoy. You should check them out. Thank you for spending time with me today, and don't forget to follow us on all your favorite social media platforms. Click on any of the links that are provided in the article to be automatically directed to our social media pages. On Facebook, we're swallowsafe.com, Instagram, swallow.safe, LinkedIn, swallowsafe.com, X, swallowsafe.com, TikTok, dysphagia_safe, Blue Sky, swallowsafe.bsky.social, YouTube, swallowsafe, and on Spotify, we're swallowsafe.com. Thank you so much for listening.